Good morning, students. So today we have to start with the permanent tissue. And permanent tissue arises from meristematic tissue. Okay, meristematic tissue is active group of actively dividing cells. First, we should know about the difference between what is cell division and what is cell differentiation. So division is simply when a cell will grow and gets mature, a single cell will be divided into two daughter cells. So this is known as cell division. And when a specific structure and a specific function is assigned to these two cells, that process is known as cell differentiation. So meristematic cells will undergo through this process only, that is cell division, whereas the permanent tissue cells will undergo the process of cell differentiation. After cell division, it will undergo the process of cell differentiation, and as a specific structure and function is assigned to this group of cells, these group of cells will lose the capacity to divide. Okay, so there are two types of permanent tissue, that is simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. So simple permanent tissue is composed of same type of cells. So here same stands for structure and function. So the permanent tissue which is made up of structurally and functionally same type of cells, it is known as simple permanent tissue. Whereas the permanent tissue which is made up of structurally and functionally different types of cells is known as complex permanent tissue. The simple permanent tissue is present in all parts of the plant, whereas the complex permanent tissue is present in the some parts of the plant. For example, the parenchyma or epidermis or cuticle, it will be present throughout the plant, whereas the vascular bundle consisted of xylem and phloem will be present in the stem portion. So phloem towards the periphery and xylem towards the center. So it is present only in some parts of the plant. Then simple permanent tissue will perform variety of function, that is the protection and the support. So protection and support is provided by simple permanent tissue, whereas the conduction or transportation is performed by complex permanent tissue. So simple permanent tissue is of three types, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, and complex permanent tissue is of two types, that is xylem and phloem. Now here we have to see only the plant tissue. So plant tissue is of two types on the basis of cell's capability to divide. So that is meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So meristematic tissue is composed of actively dividing cells, and whereas permanent tissue, so once a permanent tissue is formed, the cells will lose the capacity to divide. The permanent tissue is divided into two categories, that is simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. And simple permanent tissue is composed of structurally and functionally same type of cells. So there are three types of simple permanent tissue, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Whereas complex permanent tissue is composed of these four different types of cells. Okay, so xylem is composed of these four different types of cells which are different in their structure as well as in their function. Okay, so complex permanent tissue is of two types, that is xylem and phloem. Here in detail about the permanent tissue. So permanent tissue is divided into two categories, that is simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Complex permanent tissue is of two types, that is xylem and phloem. The simple permanent tissue is broadly classified on the basis of their structure, location and function into three types, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. This parenchyma on the basis of their location is of three types, that is parenchyma, arenchyma and chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma is the parenchyma found in the green parts of the plant, and green parts is especially the leaves, and in leaves there are two types of cells in the leaves, that is the palisade cell. These column shaped cells is the palisade cells, whereas the rounded cells is the spongy cells. So when the parenchyma is present in this type of cells, it is palisade, and when the parenchyma is present in this type of cells of the leaf, that is spongy. So sclerenchyma is of two types, that is fibers and sclerids. So we will deal about all these permanent tissue from the next class. Thank you. This is for today. Thank you everyone.